Okay, guys, I have been feeding my dogs a homemade, predominantly raw dog food farmer dog diet for about 3 months now, and it has been going very, very well. Not only do they love it, it's been very sustainable and easy for me, and I can see some awesome changes in both of them. Buddy, the one that had heartworm, and he's long past that, thank God. That was a very hard time for us, but even though it was kind of best case scenario, it was still very challenging. So I really feel compassion for people who have it harder than we did with that situation. He's always been a little overweight, and he black labs apparently have that tendency. I've never had an overweight dog. It's been very hard to manage his weight. We've had him 3.5 years, and I just could not help him trim down. I tried low fat dog food and would do like little toppers just to give him a little something worth looking forward to, besides just kibble every meal every day for their whole life. But nothing was working. He just stayed the same weight. Sometimes he'd seem like he got heavier, and it just never would go down. So because of his weight, he also was very like out of breath whenever he would go outside and run. Not just regular dog panting, but like like very like, whoa, are you all right kind of breathing. And I know that it was probably because of the weight. And then both the dogs, when they lay down on the floor, which, they have cozy therapeutic beds and everything, and they have their little elevated beds outside, they still choose to lay down on the concrete porch and on the concrete sidewalk and driveway, and then the floors, in addition to their beds. But still, that's hard on their bodies. And when they would get up, real stiff, and they would limp a little bit. Not like super concerning, not something that would stay long term, but every time they got up, they were very stiff like that. And so I'm happy to report that weight has been successfully lost and maintained at a very healthy weight level. All that hard breathing due to the overweightness is gone completely, and neither dog gets up stiff and limping. And I don't think that it's the turmeric that I add to their food, because I've been putting turmeric on their kibble from the start. Half a teaspoon of kibble per feeding per dog. That's the measurement for my dogs. So I just had to share these fantastic, immediate, visible benefits that we have experienced. And I'm very thankful. Not only have they experienced these great benefits, but I know that they're enjoying their food a lot more. And it's really fun to give them healthy, whole, real food, which, if you think of it, is probably how dogs have always eaten. And it's only in the last few, probably maybe a century or less, that we've been making, all this kibble that is a multi-billion-dollar company telling you have to give this to dogs. They need this to have all the balanced diet requirements. And it's probably just not true, you guys. So what I've been doing, you'll see, I'm going to share several of our actual meals this week for the dogs, which a lot of them are repetitive because I just use dinner's leftovers or lunch's leftovers or scraps from this or that meal, meat clippings from chicken or beef that I'm cooking for dinner. And I just use what I have, and nothing goes to waste. So some things might repeat, some things might change up. I try to, change it up for them, but it's not that big of a deal. It's similar 2 or 3 meals in a row because they're just dogs and they're liking the food they're eating. So you'll see, but I always put toppers on their food, and based on their size and weight, the toppers I do like a pinch of pepper, which activates the turmeric. I do half a teaspoon of turmeric. I do half a teaspoon of roasted eggshells, unless I'm doing an egg. Then I omit the eggshells and I just do the egg with the eggshell for calcium and iodine in the egg yolk. And I do half a teaspoon of flax meal, which I grind myself. I don't buy it milled. I grind it up because once you crack the seed, all of the nutrients and the oils dry up. So if you freshly mill them, then they're significantly more potent, but that's mostly for fiber. Still, the oils are good for their coat. And I do in the morning hemp seed oil, in the evening sunflower seed oil. Now, during the filming of these meals, I had run out of sunflower seed oil, so you might see me using hemp seed oil a lot more, but I got my sunflower seed oil in the mail yesterday, so for the last like 2 or 3 meals, you'll see me using the sunflower seed oil. But typically I do hemp seed oil in the morning, sunflower seed oil at night. That's gonna cover their omegas and their vitamin E. So they get all of their nutrients plus their protein rich diet. And I do incorporate some veggies and fruits and carbs. I do the least amount of carbs than anything. So I'll do 7 to 8 ounces of raw meat. Sometimes I have bone meal from making bone broth. Sometimes I have liver. I switch it up. I do salmon sometimes. I do sardines and water sometimes. Again, more omegas, very rich in good fatty oils for their coat and their skin. And then I'll do 2 to 3 ounces of vegetables or fruits. I'll do 1 to 2 ounces of carbs. That could be anything from leftover oatmeal to leftover rice, leftover sweet potatoes, or I'll just boil a bag of frozen organic butternut squash and give them that. I'll do any vegetable I've got on hand, and I'll top it sometimes with pumpkin or yogurt and keep it, fresh for them. So let me show you a few real life meals over the last like 5 days and give you guys an idea of what I do. Now, if you want to go down this road, you definitely have to take the time to calculate. You're supposed to do 2 to 3% of your dog's ideal body weight, and you're gonna go 2 to 3 based on their activity levels. So I do 2.5% because my dogs are not super chill, but they're also not extremely active, but they get a good amount of exercise every day, but they still lay around and sleep quite a bit as well. So I do 2.5% of their ideal body weight, putting me at 12 ounces per meal per dog every meal. So they get 24 ounces of food a day, 12 in the morning, 12 at night. And so I try to stay within that range. If I go over a tiny bit, it's not that big of a deal, but it's usually over like the fruit or the vegetables that I go over. So it's not gonna be bad for their weight gain. So enjoy the recipes, take notes, and tell me what you think. So I actually put my toppers in first because I feel like the dogs lick the bowl clean every time and they get all the toppers more effectively. When they were first starting this diet, I put the flax meal and the turmeric and the pepper on top, and they would eat around the turmeric. They didn't really like it. I tried to sprinkle it. I could see them avoiding those spots, and they still ate it all, but then I realized, if I put it in first, it's like 100% of the time they'd lick it all up, so it's just worked better for me. I do the pinch of pepper, half a teaspoon of turmeric, a whole teaspoon of hemp seed oil, and a half a teaspoon of flax meal. When I'm doing a raw egg, which I typically do in the morning, but not every time, I do not put the half a teaspoon of roasted eggshells, but when I am not incorporating an egg, I do half a teaspoon of roasted eggshells. I will save all of our eggshells every day from whatever eggs we cook, and I just accumulate them on a big sheet of aluminum foil, and I put them in the oven, and I just leave them in there. And every time we bake something, they roast. And once they're all roasted, I either crush them up for the chickens, for calcium to their diet, for harder eggshells for the eggs that they lay, or once I'm out of the dog's roasted eggshell powder, I grind them up really, really fine in a coffee blade grinder, and I put them in a jar, and I just have them handy as one of their toppers for their meals. So in this particular meal, I've done the toppers like you saw. I did a raw egg with the shell, and I always have a container filled with ground beef, ground turkey, and ground chicken. I just grab a little bit, and I guess I have some bone meal in this meal. So since I do 7 to 8 ounces of protein, that egg is usually about 2 ounces, plus all the ground meat, plus the bone meal. is all of their protein. So besides this, I'll be adding veggies, fruit, carbs. It looks like I'm adding a cucumber, and I don't remember what else. We shall see. All right, so we did cucumber, some fresh greens, predominantly spinach, but there's a little kind of lettuce in there as well, some organic frozen blueberries, and I'm gonna drizzle this with a little bit of homemade yogurt, and this is breakfast. Okay, this must be dinner. I don't quite remember, but I guess I'm doing a raw egg again, and I already did my toppers or my bottom bottom of the bowl. Pinch of pepper, some turmeric, hemp seed oil, and flax meal. I'm going in again with my ground meat, and that looks mostly like turkey. I've got some rice with peas and green beans cooked with it that I'm using for my carb and vegetable mixture. Every now and then, I will go a little heavier on the carbs based on what our leftovers are, but I will say it is not the norm. All right, looks like a very similar meal. The same old raw egg with a pinch of pepper and my turmeric, flax meal, hemp seed oil, ground turkey, and I've got some bone broth rice, which is going to also have a little protein in it, but obviously that's mostly carbs, and green beans. Now, there's a lot of people that cook their dog food, homemade dog food, in bulk, and they'll have food for a month or for 2 weeks, and that method works for them. I've tried that in years past, 3 or 4 different times, and it was not sustainable for me. This is significantly more sustainable personally for me because I'm already in the kitchen so much that it's no big deal to take an extra 15 minutes in the morning and an extra 15 minutes in the evening to prepare these 2 bowls for my dogs. I just make sure that I have all the ingredients and I don't make it something that I want to rush through. I actually just enjoy it, take my time, prepare it, and when I'm done, it's done and they're fed, and I don't need to worry about cooking in bulk and storing things. And I don't know, for some people that may be really awesome, but it just was not for me. So this is another option for those of you that maybe have tried bulk cooking and it just hasn't been what you prefer. Also, I don't remember if I shared this in the intro, but I often buy liver from the farmer that I buy our meat for our family to eat, not for the dogs to eat. I buy local raised grass fed beef and farm raised chickens and pork. And so I'll get beef liver for them. And that's something else I incorporate into their diet when I have it. And also those little bags that come inside of whole chickens with all of the organs, the neck and the heart and the liver and gizzard and stuff, I'll give them that as well when I have it. I also give them raw backbone, beef backbones when I have them. It's fantastic for them to naturally clean their teeth, and they really enjoy that as a nice treat in the afternoon. Okay, it looks like my sunflower seed oil came in the mail. So this is an evening meal, and the only difference with the toppers is this also seems to be the first meal that I'm not using a raw egg for, which is interesting because typically I do a raw egg in the morning and I skip it in the evening. But sometimes I've got to work with what I've got, and I've got to add the protein through an egg. If I don't have enough meat, I just make it work however I can. Whoa, I remember when that happened. I spilled turmeric on the counter. So I put the same ingredients here, the pinch of pepper, half a teaspoon of turmeric, half a teaspoon of roasted eggshell that's been ground up, half a teaspoon of the flax meal, and for the sunflower seed oil, I do a teaspoon and a half. And there's actually this vet on YouTube. I am going to post his YouTube video about all of the ingredients you could be incorporating in your dog's food to make sure that they're getting calcium and vitamin E and iodine and just fiber and just any good things you could be adding. He gives a sample recipe, which you could check out. I'll post the video in the description box below if you're interested. And that way you can see some other ingredients that you could play around with to add to your dog food. I feel like I try to do all of it at different times, but consistently enough to where they're getting everything they need. Today I'm doing a canned salmon as their protein, and I always rinse this salmon thoroughly. So I'll open the can and then I just rinse it over and over with water until it's as rinsed as possible to just limit the sodium going into their meal. And, I weigh their food, but every now and then I'll throw something in the scale and throw myself off with the numbers. It's not perfect, but I will. That's why you saw me pick up the meat to like re-weigh it, because I had put it in before I was weighing it, and so the reading was inaccurate. I'm adding some sweet potatoes from our lunch leftovers, and I still have some of that rice with the green beans and peas cooked into it as the carb. I'm adding some pumpkin, which is fantastic for their digestive system. I always get organic canned pumpkin, and I'll get it in bulk at Walmart. It's just more affordable that way and easy to always have on hand if I'm running low on vegetables or I need a quick, good fiber topper for them. I'm not sure if I'm adding that cucumber, but I probably am since I have it there. Let's see. All right, and I'm pretty sure this is the last meal. No, this is the last day because this is this morning, and then I have one more meal this evening. So looks like I already put in my toppers. I call them toppers because everybody else does, but I put them at the bottom of the bowl. So you know the toppers by now. Putting in some ground turkey, and this is some fatty pieces that I cut off of our beef roast from last night's dinner that I saved to put on their bowls just to add to their protein and just a little savory treat. So that's going to be added to their protein. I cannot remember if I added an egg, but you can add one or not. And basically the difference will be the eggshells ground up or the egg. And if you do the eggshells ground up, you're going to be adding an extra 2 ounces of protein in another form. I really thought that I had filmed a meal that I put watermelon as their fruit, but I guess I didn't. But I just had to say that I've been doing that a lot this summer and they really like it. So I highly recommend it. It's very refreshing and cooling and hydrating, especially in these super hot months. Looks like I did pumpkin again, and I'm doing cucumber again as well. I'm using some cucumbers from my garden as well as these leftover tomato pieces from, I guess, a salad we had yesterday. And these are also from the garden. So they're pretty much free, which is pretty awesome, as well as our eggs are practically free. I did go to Aldi today, so I was excited to get a few extra groceries, and I stocked up on ground beef, ground turkey, ground chicken for the rest of the week for the dogs. I stocked up on some organic frozen butternut squash, which I love to have on hand for them. If I don't have an easy veggie, I can just boil that real quick, and it doesn't even have to get very hot. As long as it defrosts, they eat it happily. I got some spinach, some carrots, which are all great for the dogs as well. I gotta say, I did more eggs than I usually do in this video, which is interesting, but I think it's probably because I was running low on some things, so I needed to work with what I had, and I just kept adding eggs for that extra protein in each meal. Doing some yogurt again this morning for their breakfast, and I think that's that. My boys have had to help me get the dogs fed every meal these days because, as you know, I have a fractured foot that is healing in a boot, and I cannot take the food out to the porch for them, which is something I really enjoy, sitting on the porch and just enjoying a little outdoor time while they eat. I like to sit there and stay with them just in case they fight, which has happened once and it just made me so sad. It's never happened before or since, but that one time shook me up. So I like to stay with them. And also, my mama's dog comes out sometimes, and if he were to spot them eating, he would totally run on the porch and eat all their food right from under their nose. So I have this stand guard. But 9 times out of 10, it's really just a moment to relax and enjoy a little sit down time while they eat. This is the last meal I'm sharing with you on this video. We're doing the usual toppers, the sunflower seed oil. I do a teaspoon and a half of that instead of a teaspoon compared to the hemp seed oil. So I am doing some ground chicken and some sardines in water for their protein for this meal. The ground chicken is not frozen, but it's not 100% thawed out either. If it's ever too cold, I will mix it with some warm water to make sure it's not cold on their gums and teeth. But this was very, very soft. It was practically defrosted, even though it looks pretty firm in the footage. Typically, when I open a pumpkin can, I'll go ahead and use it at every meal until it runs out. and then I'll wait a couple of days and then open another can and go through it as well. I don't want it to mold or go bad in the fridge, so I just try to go through it. But it's only a tablespoon per bowl, so it lasts quite a while. And when I do run out of it, even if I have some in the pantry, I'll skip a few meals and use just regular veggies or yogurt instead of the pumpkin as the topper. As our veggies today, we're doing the pumpkin and some carrots and some spinach. And I've got some leftover oatmeal from breakfast this morning that I'll be adding as their carb. I really hope that this video was informative and encouraging and inspiring to you. Even if you can't do a completely homemade dog diet, you could definitely still give your dog some healthy scraps and kibble toppers like fresh veggies and fresh fruits and rich in fiber foods, some extra lean proteins as a treat, some raw backbones, and just give them a little change up in their diet. I hope that you'll check out the videos I list in the description box for further education, and I really appreciate you guys, as always, watching and supporting me. God bless you all. See you next time.